Good evening. We are live again at Brunel University.
In the last hour, the Prime Minister Theresa May said that the Conservatives would be the largest party and that the country needed stability. In other words, she was acknowledging that they may not have the majority.
In the last hour, Boris Johnson and John McDonnell have been re-elected at the count here in Uxbridge. We are joined in our studio by Anna Keeping, a historian, and John Dolling, a journalist. So, John, you have been at the count. How is the atmosphere there?
Well, I think obviously they're both high-profile politicians, Boris Johnson as Foreign Secretary and John McDonnell as Shadow Chancellor. I would say when Boris Johnson won, obviously he has a strong campaign behind him. He thanked everyone in Hillingdon Council. He also made a big point in praising Londoners and the British public in general for their response to the terror attacks that have happened over the last few weeks. John McDonnell, slightly different tact. He took the opportunity to attack Theresa May. He said that over the last few months, she's promised not to hold a snap election several times, and then obviously in April she called it. And it's been known as the Brexit election. She's focused on Brexit, but John McDonnell claims that we still have no clear idea of what's going to happen with Brexit. So I'd say there was a huge crowd there, like TV cameras, as you'd expect, but at the end of the day, I think we expected those results to happen. So there was no sort of shock or anything. We knew Boris was going to hold his seat, and we knew John McDonnell was going to hold his seat.
John, did Boris acknowledge that the Conservatives are doing badly?
Boris actually refused to take any questions from the media. We were shunned completely. I did manage to get a word in with Ray Puddifoot, who is the leader of the council, and he's a Conservative, and he was obviously on Boris's team, and he acknowledged that it is going to be a real struggle for the Tories to get a majority. He said they're always hopeful, but he says a lot of things have played into Labour's hands. He made sure that he brought up the number of students that have registered recently since the Labour pledge to scrap tuition fees. So there wasn't an acknowledgement that the Tories are doing badly, but there definitely seemed there was a bit of tension there from the Conservative campaign.
So did Boris Johnson acknowledge that he maybe is a Prime Minister in waiting?
If I had to go on their stances, on the stature of them on the podium, I would say Boris. Well, you know what Boris is like. He plays to the crowd. He may have been pretending to be rattled just in order to get the crowd going. I mean, he was talking during his Labour counterpart's speech and kind of almost heckling him, but not obviously attacking him. Whereas John McDonnell, cool, calm, collected, as you'd expect though from a man who's been an MP for as long as he has. Is Boris a Prime Minister in waiting? I don't know. I mean, it's hard to tell until we'd actually be in that position. So.
And did John McDonnell protect the image that he can be a Shadow Chancellor again?
I think that John McDonnell is a great orator. He speaks. He knows. Well, the difference John McDonnell also mentioned about Boris is they're completely different MPs. John McDonnell is local, very heart of the constituency, will speak to everyone. Boris, obviously, it's a lot harder for him being Foreign Secretary. So sometimes the accusations of him being part-time MP may come across a bit harsh, as you could tell during the acceptance speeches. But one thing I did notice about John McDonnell, which impressed me particularly, was his rival for the Hayes and Harlington seat, Greg Smith, attacked him for saying, "I never thought I would actually be on the same ballot paper as a communist." Loud boos coming from the crowd, oh, the Tory nasty campaign. But John McDonnell just stood there, little smirk on his face, and and just ignored the entire thing. So.
Sure. So, Anna, a question for you. The Labour vote rose in Uxbridge. How do you think why?
Well, whilst Boris Johnson did maintain his majority and he did increase by 0.6%, Labour increased by 13.6%, and that's purely because the UKIP vote completely shattered and they lost the majority there.
Sure.
I've got one more question for you, John. Recent terrorist attacks, what was the security there?
Well, I was quite surprised, really. We're not only talking about the Foreign Secretary, but he's one of the highest profile MPs we've ever had, He's one of the most popular. So, although obviously you could see a couple of plainclothes guards around him and a few armed officers, it was quite relaxed. But I have to say, maybe that contributed to the relaxed atmosphere within the centre where the count was being held. I think there was no sort of worry or anything. But yeah, no, security was pretty lax with two high-profile politicians arriving.
Thank you very much. Well, it's still unclear how this government will turn out. This is going to take several more hours to work out, but we'll keep you updated. Thank you.